Hi guys, I hope you're fine. In this episode, I'm going to teach you the clauses of the QMS standards of ISO organization, ISO 9001 standard, and you know that it's a very popular standard for management systems, and it's a quality management system. And I know that many of you in your organizations are trying to implement this standard or have implemented. So it would be great for you to know the details of the clauses, and I am trying to describe the meanings and definitions, because the lack of full understanding and knowledge about the clauses and the things that standards requires would be devastating for organizations and would create a lot of costs without being interactive, dynamic, and fruitful system that anybody uses and utilizes. So it would be so urgent and important for you to know what standard requires and what does not. So I want to ask you to pay attention to anything that I describe in these episodes and try to implement those in your system if you want to be a perfect implementer and to be a master of ISO 9001. As I know that many of you are now already familiar with this standard, I passed the preliminary clauses and the scope, and I try to go to the first clause, and it is the context of the organization. And if you want to know about this standard, you can search in Google and find out about it. It is a standard for providing evidence for a system that it can meet the customer's needs, and it is an international and well-known standard for quality issues. So the first clause, and it is an important clause, it is context of the organization, and it is a new one. It is added after 2015 version of this standard. And what is it all about? Many of people are wondering about context and they don't know what it is. Context is defined by many people as a surrounding area or external environment, internal environment, but it is a hidden trick in this definition, and it is not just only external and internal environment. You should pay attention to the definition and find out what context means exactly. Context is the environment that all influencing forces are there. It is not somewhere physical. For example, you define context, anything beyond our organization's wall is our context, or anything inside of our organization is internal context. No, it's not. So pay attention that it should be a force influencing on your organization. That is a requirement that this force is included into your context of the organization. That this force is included into your context. So please pay attention. Anything that you want to consider as your context, just be careful that what kind of influence is all about. You influence on them or they influence on you. So we are talking about influences, not entities. So what requires the clause says the organization shall determine external and internal issues that are relevant to its purpose and its strategic direction and that affect its ability to achieve the intended results of its quality management system. So it is clear. When we are talking about determine, it means exactly determine. In management standards of ISO, any verb has a clear meaning, and determine is not necessarily documenting. But it is a good practice to document them, but it does not require that you document anything. But in many organizations, they document the context, but their requirements is determine. Determine means that you determine that anybody of your organizations in the, for example, boards to the frontline employees know what is it of the context and what includes in the context. It is determined. It is a consideration. So you have to determine. And it has a clear clue. Those that are relevant to its purpose and strategic direction. So when you are talking about any entities, any organizations, any issues that are included into your context, you have to reconsider that what kind of influences they have. If they don't have any influences, omit. They are not in your context. They have to influence your ability to reach your results in your QMS. We are now talking about a QMS system, not just any system. You may find an entity that influences on your, for example, a food safety management system, environmental management system, energy management system. But now in this standard, we are talking about a quality management system. So if you don't have any other management standards, you just only are focusing on quality management system. If they don't have any influence, so eliminate them. Okay. And then it says that the organization shall monitor and review information about these external and environmental and internal issues. Why? Why shall we monitor and review information? Because it is dynamic. The context is not just a static entity. It changes by the time, and you have to monitor them. Many of them are weak and then get stronger. Many of them are strong and get weaker. So we have to monitor them, monitor the trend. For example, you define the influence of, for example, economic issues, and specifically, for example, foreign exchange rate. It does not have a special influence. Sometimes it is so high, and sometimes it is negligible. So you have to monitor them and review information. So this is a requirement. It is a shall monitor. But the requirements does not specify the interval. Many people ask me, what is the interval of the monitoring, for example, in quarterly, for example, or yearly? I want to answer this question by the fact that the context itself answers this question. If you are fronting a context that is so dynamic and changes rapidly, so monitoring should be happening in a shorter interval. And if you are talking about an element in your context that is slow and does not change in quarter period of time, so you may monitor them in twice a year, for example. So I think that this is not a good practice that I review all my context document, for example, after 6 months or yearly. Some lines of the context should be reviewed. For example, weekly, some of them monthly, and some of them yearly. It is determined by their nature, not by a specific interval. So it is reasonable. And in this clause, the standard provides 3 important notes. Note 1, issues can include positive and negative factors or conditions for consideration. So it says that just only paying attention to negative influences is not a good habit. Many managers are just focusing on negative things. So there are so many positive influences that may affect your organization capability to reach the targets. They may have a positive influence on your organization. For example, in some seasons, the demand for your products are getting high naturally. So it is a positive influence. Okay, some sanctions are positive and some sanctions are negative for some organizations. They would create opportunities or lack of competitors that you can reach more customers. So don't just only concentrate on negative things. Consider all forces, positive or negative. Note 2 says that understanding the external context can be facilitated by considering issues arising from legal, technological, competitive, market, cultural, social, and economic environments, whether international, national, regional, or local. It is a pestle analysis. It is elements of pestle analysis. Pestle analysis is political, economic, social, technological, and environment and legal. In this note, their requirement says that you can do a pestle analysis for passing this clause, because this clause context is the fundamental of the spirit of strategic planning that is now embedded into QMS. After 2015, the QMS is now a tool for implementing strategic planning. It is not just a system, it is a strategic system. Now, in this version, many of the clauses are strategic in nature, and context is strategic because you get into and delve into an environment to find out the best method to reach your goals, and it is the definition of the strategy. So, in summary, you can do a pestle analysis for this clause, and this is a very good tool to find out the forces. But I want to draw your attention to the bad habits that organizations follow, and they gather some information about different issues in different categories, for example, political, social, economic, and they say this is our pestle analysis. It is not. It is just data gathering from different issues. It is not a pestle analysis. Just the same, you have to gather information about different issues that are influencing your organizations. You don't go into the ocean of different issues in technological, for example, issues in your country, or economic issues. Wow, this is in the level of our ministry. Government issues, if you want to gather information about anything related to social, for example, or technology or political issues. It is really an ocean of issues, and you will be drawn. You have to select the most important ones that are related to your QMS. So just find them. And then another hint is that you have to use reliable sources. Many people just Google, and in Google there are a lot of unreliable sources that say anything about everything, and they gather them in a document and title them pestle analysis. No, it's not. You have to use reliable sources, and also you have to double check the reliable sources and find out whenever the results are contradicting each other. Contradicting results shows that something is not right. When two reliable sources say two different things about one issue, it shows that a discrepancy exists. Maybe they are using different metrics. Maybe they are using different input data. Maybe they are using different time zones. Maybe they are gathering information from different sources. Many scenarios may have happen. But be careful about different reliable sources. So just one trusted sources is not enough. You have to check by at least three reliable sources, and when they are saying the same thing, it is added into your pestle analysis. But when they are different and contradicting, you have to find the best answer. Sometimes you have to aggregate them, or to say an average, or say all answers in your pestle analysis, not just picking one of them. Okay. And you have to include the document and reference of the sources that your information is coming from. Many people, for example, look at the screen and write, inflation rate has been 5%, and so. From which sources are you gathering this information? Which site? Which PDF file? Just like an academic essay, thesis, for example, you have to write the exact sources, even pages. If you can, download them, or screenshots, maybe add it to your file. Why? Because, for example, if you do an pestle analysis now, maybe 6 months later, someone says, from which reliable information did such strategy came from? Did such a strategy come from? And you say, from this information. And the next question is, from which source did you get it? And you wonder, I don't know. But it was reliable. Okay, it was reliable. Which reliable source? And it is not professional. You have to show your manager this reliable source. For example, the standard organization of my country, or for example, FAO, or for example, WHO, or any other website provides such reports in reports 2024. This report in page 16, for example, table X, I found this chart or this trend, and I extracted and used as an input for my pestle analysis. This is a professional approach, not just writing anything you find and providing a long text. Okay. And also another improvement to your pestle analysis would be a scenario-based forecasting. because we are talking about dynamic forces. Anything that, there are so many organizations that provide forecasting about future. For example, their reports are including outlook in their topic. For example, outlook of economy of, for example, USA or Germany or Europe, or forecasting import and export of countries, for example, 2050. They are forecasting something for 2 decades later, for example. You may use them, but if you're not using such forecasting reports, you may forecast yourself by different scenarios, because a trend may be constant, may be upward, and maybe downward. Even a sharp increase or something may experience a nosedive, for example. You may consider different scenarios. For example, this input of my postal analysis may be increasing, may be constant, may be decreasing in near future, may increase, may decrease, may be constant. And organization can provide different scenarios for different combination of these factors, and provide some alternatives strategies. If these 3 options happen, we have to provide such features in our products and decrease our price and increase our quality, for example, 10%. And if these combinations occur, we go and continue on this path that we are taking this now till now. And if these combinations happen, we go into export markets. So it is a very good approach to consider different scenarios for providing different strategies, because we need nowadays, it is important, because we are facing sudden changes in inputs in our postal analysis, and they affect heavily our quality management system. And note 3 says that understanding the internal context can be facilitated by considering issues related to values, culture, knowledge, and performance of the organization. Internal issues are mainly related to people and human capital. Also, culture is very important because, as Peter Drucker says, culture eats strategy as breakfast. Culture is so important because if you want to implement QMS, you have to create its specific culture. Otherwise, they just fill out forms for you and nothing happens, and it would be a dead-end job for people that do something and do their task and also fill out forms for you to pass your audits and get the certifications. And it is a very, very bad use of resources. You have to integrate them. And without culture, you can't. You have no option but to talk to your people and to convince them that it is not an extra part of your job. It is an embedded job. It is another type of doing your job. It is a change in your practice. It is a change in the process, not a parallel process. Okay? And if you can change the culture and lead the change, you will be successful. Otherwise, you have to bear the difficulties of implementing quality management system. And I think that after some years, you raise your hands up and give up because it is not a useful and added value activity. So internal issues in your organizations are mainly related to your people and the organization culture that is created for the activity of the people and the interaction between organization and the human capital. Also, the fact that how much they are professional, how much they are experienced, how much knowledge do they have. All of them could be an internal analysis that you have to do. Without knowing the level of expertise, knowledge, experience, training, culture, values, and etc. of our people, we can't implement a good quality management system. Okay, I hope that you have understood now the requirements of this clause. If you want to have more information about the definitions and the clauses of the QMS, and especially in this clause, you may be in contact with me. And also I have some tables for documenting the context of your QMS. You may download them or let me know. I want to be in contact with you and I can send them for you by email. And I would be happy to know that if you have implemented this clause and what kind of difficulties did you experience. And it would be so great to be with you in your implementing process. Thank you and goodbye.